Hello, I'm Tyler Shattuck, and today I want to teach you HTML and CSS. Now, the approach I'm going to try to go at today is to not use things that I know from memory and hope that you learn them and memorize them as I do them, but show them how if I were to somehow forget, or which I actually do forget all the time how to code and markup, I'm going to teach you how to search for it on the internet and use the internet as your resource, because if you're web designing, you'll probably have internet access. So first, to start off, we have to have software. Now, if you have Dreamweaver, that's great. Use that. If you don't, Dreamweaver is very expensive. I don't want to lie. It's probably around $1,000. It's probably actually about $700, but that's a lot of money. And for web designing, you probably don't need it. It has a lot of shortcuts, but unless you memorize those shortcuts, it'll actually probably slow you down. So you should probably learn web design from the ground up and then work into these shortcuts. So the first thing that we need to do is look up a web program called Notepad++. Notepad++ is a wonderful tool. It's basically a glorified Notepad. You can actually write HTML on websites from text editor. I know a lot of people who do that. Actually, one of my old bosses exclusively used a program called Text Wrangler for Mac, and he swore by it, and he never really touched Dreamweaver even though he had it. So I would suggest downloading this Notepad++, and it looks like this. It's great. It'll open up probably with a change log or something like that. Just close that and a new window will pop up, and that's just a new general document. What you want to do first is save it. So I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'll say, normally when you start a website you call it index. At this point it doesn't really matter, so I'll call it index. I don't want to save it as a normal txt. Do not hit enter right away, and if you did, just resave it. You want to scroll down until you see, let's see, HTML, Hypertext Markup Language. Or you could just type in HTML. That would work just fine, and hit save. Now you've got an HTML document. If you skip this step, you won't get code hinting. Code hinting is when you start typing code and it changes color or suggests code to you. So I don't think code hinting is enabled by default, advanced code hinting, but you'll still get the colors if you do the HTML. So now we'll probably need to put some text into it. So I could either put Jarbley text, or if I want to be classy, I can go to a site called Lorem Ipsum. Lorem Ipsum, I can never spell it, there it is. It's all the facts. What Lorem Ipsum is just filler text. Us graphic designers use it to not look stupid by jarbling text on the screen. It just is a little classier way to, it's a little more natural looking too. If you just glance at it, you don't realize it's some other language. I'll take 3 paragraphs, how about? And I'll copy it, I'll paste it straight into my Notepad++, and I'll save it. Now, to test this, I'm going to click Run and launch in Chrome. And notice one thing missing. I've got no spaces. Well, that's because there's no HTML yet in this document. It's just a bunch of text. So I'll add some markup. What is HTML? Well, I already said it was markup. It's Hypertext Markup Language. What markup is a set of tags. So if I want to say this is a paragraph, because right now Chrome is looking at this and is thinking, I don't see paragraphs, I don't see anything else. I want to tell it that it's a paragraph. How I do that is I do open P, close. And that means paragraph. I'll just tell you that one. I won't look that one up yet for you. Like, I'll look some of the other tags up for you later so you know how to find this. And then to close a tag, I need to go this little slanty thing. I think it's a backslash, but I forgot the name of it. And close. Right here, it's invalid. It's yelling at me. There, it's valid. So now, if I were to save this, I can actually just refresh this. I'll get 1 paragraph. I can do the same for these. Oop, wrong character. So there. Now I've got 3 paragraphs. So we probably want to do something cool with this now, and actually start changing the style. So now I'm going to start getting into styles. One thing I could do is Google something, because I don't know styles yet. That's another language all of itself. HTML text formatting, let's say. Oh, see, right there. I did visit this before. So if you Google something like that, you'll probably end up on a website. If it's w3schools.com, they're really good at this. They're very professional. They'll give you the straightforward answer of how things work. Other sites like forums will also do the same thing if it's a hard question. But if you want to reference something, w3schools.com. If you see it in your Google results, I'd click it. So now we see things we can do. It's giving me examples like bolding and italicizing and computer outputting and subscript and superscript. How I would do this is a whole table down here, and I don't think I've used most of these. No, yeah, I haven't used most of these, but there are some. So I guess this is really how you look up. If I wanted to bold this, I could bold this. Bold. See, I did my opening tags and my closing tags, and if I save it and go back to index, I'm going to get bolded. Now, to my knowledge, strong is pretty much the same thing. So I'll just do it for the sake of showing off that strong is the same thing. I actually never really realized that until I looked that up today. I thought they were just different things. Strong is doing the same thing over there. If I want to italicize, I know EM does the same thing, but it also means italics. So there, it's right there. That's some markup. That's some other HTML, HTML text markup. There's more advanced markup like divs. We'll get into that later. But for now, what if I wanted to make something? I want to maybe blue, make some text blue. Let's look that up. So now that we're done with HTML text formatting, I'll use this window and Google HTML styles. Style sheet. Not what I wanted, but I still got it. Styles. So now we're getting into this sort of inline style. This is Inline Styles, it's called. This is right there. To do that, you're going to have style equals. So that's like let's call it an attribute. Actually, I think that's the actual term for it. Style equals, and then when you usually have an attribute, it's attribute equals something in quotation marks. And in this case, it's going to be a bunch of styles. So in this situation, it's saying the color of the text will be blue, and the margin, which is when you have an object, it has like an imaginary box around it. Margin is the space out, pushing out from the box. So if you have like a blue box, nothing will get within 10 pixels of that box if you have a margin left of 10. If you have a padding of 10, you'll have the blue box will come out a little from the inside of the blue box. There'll be 10 pixels from where the text will start showing up. So that's margin and padding in a nutshell. There's good resources on just visuals on that if you just Google it. But let's try adding the color blue part. Actually, let's add all this. So let's copy and just see what it does. I think that'll work. Yeah. So now it gave this paragraph a margin of 10 or 20, sorry, and the color of blue. Now, what if I had a bunch of paragraphs and I didn't want to have to change it? Maybe I changed my mind a lot, and I didn't really want to have to sit there and restyle it every time. Like I changed it every month. That's where cascading style sheets come in. They take these styles and they apply it across the board, and you get a bunch of rules. It's basically like if this, then this. So to do that, let's just refresh the page here. Now I got a bunch of paragraphs, and I want each one of these paragraphs, each one, to be blue. So I could say P. Actually, I'm sorry. It's HTML for this. To do that, to create a cascading style sheet that's inline, or inside, not inline, but inside the HTML document, you open style, and you want to close it off right away. So now I've got this little style area, and I'm getting this to tell me that this is how big this markup area is. It's only that big. So I'm going to say P. I'm going to get the rule. And now this is the general format. You have what you want to change. So I'm looking at the P here. That's the name of these elements. Each one has a P. They're actually all lighting up. That's what Notepad++ does. And I want them all to have color blue. Now, one thing to notice when you wrote these down, I didn't point out last time, was you have attribute, and then you have the value, and it's always separated by a colon. And whenever you're done with that attribute, you say done. This means done. It's a semicolon. Now, I could write that margin left 20 pixels here, and that would be the same thing, and this would be the same thing. As long as I have this semicolon, it doesn't really care about how many returns you have. So let's just leave it like this and see what happens. Part of me is thinking I might have did something wrong, but we'll see. Nope, I didn't. See? Now it applied to each one of those P tags. Now we can get a little tricky. There's something called a div. A div doesn't really do anything on its own. A div just has a name. It has like it's kind of like a P has its own name. So if I wanted to say, I could start opening a div here, and I could close a div here. Wouldn't do anything. But divs can have something called classes and IDs. And most elements can have a class and an ID on its own, but divs just don't do anything, so they're just the perfect way to name things in a large group. They're like, it's like grouping things. If you're a designer, this is your group command when you have multiple things in one set. So for this, I could say div, let's say ID. ID is like a name, and I want this one to be first, because there's only going to be one first. Now this still hasn't done anything yet, but if I say, now there's when I'm saying an ID, it's a pound sign first. I'll get into classes in a second. Let's say color red. Read. I think this will work. Nope, I need to say also it needs to be all P tags in that area. So what I did there, and I overlooked something. There's a rule of CSS. So right now I told all the P tags to be blue. And then I decided to say all the reds, the firsts, should be this. If I were to take this out, I bet this would still work. Yes, it would. It's a good lesson right there. That the first, the most specific element always wins. So this was more specific. P is more specific than first. So I'm going to just take this out the rest of the way. And let's just say div class equals third, or like odd. So now I have odd there. And I'm just going to do these two for the sake of simplicity. I've got those classes there, and I can also add a class to first. This equals odd. So now I can say period class. I'm going to say font weight, just because I know that one. I would Google that one otherwise, is bold. Maybe not. Let's try color blue. Oh, I did class, that's why. Odd. It's odd, I apologize. And now you have those alternating. And I mean, that's just an introduction to CSS. Stay tuned, I'll try to keep more up to date. And let me know if you have any problems. Feel free to give me an email or send me a message. Thanks.